Ange Ball, as it is being so affectionately named right now, is in full effect, and Tottenham are flying. Despite the result that came across yesterday, which on paper looked as though Tottenham had the stuffing beaten out of them, Tottenham fans and Tottenham critics alike could come out of this game thinking to themselves, this is not the same team that we saw last year. Something special is happening at Tottenham. Hi guys, my name is Izzy, and if you're new to this channel, you know what to do. Hit that like button and that subscribe button if you enjoyed this content. You will let YouTube know that you are enjoying it. Anyways, on to Tottenham. This has been a very good start for Tottenham. They have had so many near misses over the years. You only have to think about the person that they faced yesterday who took them so close to the summit. Thwarted twice by Chelsea and by Leicester City, although Arsenal kind of crept in towards the end of the 2015-2016 season. So yesterday's game was much more than just an emotional match for Tottenham Hotspur fans. It was a game where they wanted to see if they can put the rest of some of the demons that they had facing a manager who they loved so much. Now, on the other side of the dugout, you have Ange Postecoglou, a man whose personality has just been shining through the team so far. Whatever he's been doing at Tottenham is working. And the game yesterday was a very, very good watch. Now, VAR did play a big part in the game, but it didn't overpower it in the sense that most of the decisions were correct. There were a ton of offsides. It was a very entertaining game. A lot of goals that were chalked off because of either offside or some infraction committed towards the goal. But it was a very, very good watch. But one of the things that I came out of that game noticing was the fact that Tottenham have a spirit behind them right now that can rival Arsenal's spirit last season and can rival some of the best team squad spirits that we've seen in the entirety of the Premier League. Now, it's only about 11 games. Admittedly, it's very early to talk about title aspirations for this Tottenham Hotspur side that just lost their best player last season, and one who's still thriving. I mean, he beat the living daylights out of Dortmund with a hat-trick this weekend. So one can only imagine what could have been if Harry Kane would have stuck around for an extra season. Although you can't begrudge him that, because as wonderful a player as he is for what Tottenham were building over the years, he has seen it go up and down, and his talent deserves a lot of trophies. That's just an important thing. Harry Kane would be a Ballon d'Or nominee at the top end if he would have probably joined another team earlier. Now, I still want to focus on Tottenham's performance yesterday. So while towards the end it was pretty haphazard because the high line that they were playing was something that they did not give up at all. But what we saw from this Tottenham Hotspur side is a team that just does not want to be beaten. Much in the same vein as we've seen Liverpool teams of the past, Manchester City teams of the past, but they were only going to go down fighting yesterday to try and give up that unbeaten record. Now, Chelsea were aided a lot by the fact that Tottenham self-destructed. The 2 red cards were warranted. Romero going in on that challenge and conceding the penalty thereafter, and then Udogie, who with a full-blooded tackle was just trying to get the ball, but he was late. So I don't think Tottenham can have too many qualms about the red cards that they got yesterday. But one thing that really shocked me all the way through, despite the game going from 2-1 to 3-1 to 4-1, was the spirit that you saw with the Tottenham Hotspur fans. They kept on singing right to the end. And that is a feeling that I remember having last season when we saw Arsenal go all the way and push Manchester City all the way to trying to get their first title in 19 seasons. It was wonderful. And whatever Ange Postecoglou is building there, he is fostering an environment of inclusion, an environment of you go out there and play and give your best. And he just seems like the type of guy you want to sit down and talk football with, grab a beer and enjoy his company. He just really seems as though he's a player's manager. And that's one thing that Tottenham needed, because before then they had Jose Mourinho and they had Antonio Conte, and then they had Nuno Espirito Santo, who seemed as though he was out of his depth. But when you had the likes of Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte, two extremely talented managers, two people who've won a lot of things in the game, but could not foster that type of environment that Postecoglou had. Now, a lot of people derided his appointment when he first came in. I, for one, did not think that this, Aussie manager that came from Celtic, which is a big team, admittedly, but is not on par with what Tottenham have been doing over the last few seasons, a team that's made it to the Champions League final. I did not think that he was going to have this much of an impact on the Premier League and on the team like he has. And so it's beautiful to watch what he's doing. Although I do think that they can be very reckless in how they play, and that was exemplified by the fact that maybe if they would have stuck it out towards maybe the 90th minute before they would have started playing that extremely high line or kept playing that extremely high line, they might have caused Chelsea some more problems. Because yesterday's game does not tell us anything about Chelsea. It doesn't really tell us too much about their attacking threat because they got stronger as the game wore on because Tottenham were down to 9 men. But what it did tell us was what is in and around Tottenham. Tottenham are fantastic. And if they're to keep playing this way, the sky's the limit for them. I still do have that feeling as though they will tail off towards the end because just one injury or two injuries might be enough to overpower them at this point. And as well, they're playing against one of the best sides we've ever seen in the Premier League in Manchester City, as well as probably all of English football. So it's not going to be easy to see them hold that level of consistency that they've been able to hold throughout this whole time this season. The one thing that I do fear for them is that eventually when somebody does find them out, especially with the high line that they tend to play, you're going to have a lot of teams that play counterattacking football that are going to enjoy playing against them. But they do hold possession very well, so that's a good thing. Postecoglou really likes to stretch out teams. His wing play is extremely great. He knows how to make substitutions at the right time, and he just seems to have a rapport with the players that Conte, Mourinho, Espirito Santo, and the likes before them did not have. It's not since Pochettino was in that team that we saw Tottenham really enjoy the football that they're playing. And, one can argue that when January comes around and they are able to get a striker who's going to alleviate some of the stress that Heung-min Son has been having in trying to provide goals for them, then, the sky's the limit. And maybe if they buffer that midfield a little bit and buttress it with a few more quality players, get somebody in there that Maddison could, alternate with, you never know what Tottenham can do. I still do feel as though they might get found out simply because of how aggressive they play. And games such as yesterday might pop in every once in a while where they might get a shellacking. We see that with Brighton because Brighton also do play the same high line. And every once in a while, like the Aston Villa game or the Everton game last season, they will get rollicked. Now, whether or not that team is going to be able to sustain that is another question. Another thing is that Tottenham, whenever they go ahead in a game, it's very hard to see them losing games. It's just very impressive what Ange Postecoglou has been able to do in such a short period of time. Now, as far as Chelsea in the game, Chelsea were okay. They did have some chances prior to equalizing, and the offsides definitely made for a compelling view simply because the game just seemed to be very stretched. It was two sides that were going at it all the way, and Chelsea have an impeccable record at Tottenham. They seem to always win there, regardless of however their form is. And sometimes this might just be that Newcastle effect, where Newcastle, no matter how well they play against Liverpool over the last maybe 10, 15 years, Liverpool always seemed to have the better end of them. It's the same thing with Arsenal over the last 10 years when they were facing Manchester City, sometimes facing Liverpool. It didn't matter how well they played, they just got beaten. But that's all I got for this game. I am really impressed with Tottenham. I just wanted to speak a little bit about what I see Ange Postecoglou doing for his team. He just seems like a great guy. And for the Tottenham fans, long live this form that they're showing. That fearlessness that they go into a lot of games trying to show is just impressive. And if other teams could also have the same level of authority when they play, regardless of whoever they play against, the same thing goes for Brighton and of late Aston Villa, well, then maybe you might start seeing a league where more and more results like yesterday are not derided because you think a team just fell away and died. No, you actually had a very good game that was decided, unfortunately, by a couple of red cards. But even after that, Tottenham still went forward. And when Kulusevski looked as though he had equalized, some part of me, even though I'm not a Tottenham fan, some part of me wanted that goal to stick because they deserved that. They deserved to be on level pegging at least towards the end of the game. And eventually, just because the numbers were scant, they eventually fell off. And the 4-1 scoreline absolutely flattered Chelsea because that game was not a 4-1 game. But anyway, guys, I've ranted enough for this game. Good for Postecoglou, good for Tottenham. Chelsea, they were okay. But Tottenham, if this game was 11v11, Tottenham probably would have overpowered them. But that's what I got for right now, guys. Like, subscribe, do everything down there. I appreciate you. Until next time, peace.